Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this video, of course, I shall be discussing the news on both the catastrophic collapse in Labour's polling, how Number 10 do at least recognise that it's catastrophic, but also discuss whether they and others will finally diagnose the real problem, because until they do that, this is going to continue. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So the polling out from YouGov yesterday was about as bad for Labour as you could imagine. Both Starmer's and Labour's favourability ratings have plummeted. They've not just gone down, they've plummeted. And when you consider that this coincided with an election campaign, Labour had a very effective election machine until recently. I mean, during the election campaign itself, this is where Labour should make gains. This makes it all the worse. And if that's not bad enough, the news under the bonnet got no better. Not only have Labour and Starmer been losing support all over the place, Farage has been gaining it. Now, before I go over where Labour are going wrong, let's just make sure we don't get a false impression either. So a casual browse through commentary in the mainstream media and social media, they'll have no shortages of the why. This is why Starmer is failing, right? People do this all the time. When polling collapses for someone, doesn't matter who it is, oh, this is because of the thing that I've been arguing against for ages. This proves I was right, they say. The polling does not say why Labour and Starmer's favourability has fallen, nor why Farage's has improved. Labour should be finding out. They can and should be carrying out internal polling to drill down to the specific reasons so that they are in no doubt at all, because this is very serious. Although given how they seem to keep misusing focus groups to do everything for them, I'm not sure they are. So what do we actually know? We know that Labour have made a conscious pitch for a left-wing but socially conservative voting bloc, which Reform UK have been effective at attracting. So that has been Labour's focus in recent weeks. We know that for certain. Labour have directly or indirectly attacked groups which the party had during their last period of government backed: trans people, disabled people, immigrants, all in an effort to appeal to that group of voters. There's been a very obvious and very conscious push to change these positions in the past few weeks. Now, we don't know that any or all of these have damaged Labour's standing in the polls. Indeed, judging by other polling on the individual positions, there's good reason to suppose that it may not have done. The polling collapse could actually be down to previously unpopular policies like the winter fuel allowance being brought into sharp focus during the election campaign. In fact, a report in the iPaper says Downing Street are finding from their own research that this was like the major issue that killed them in the local elections, and that voters wouldn't hold it against Labour if they U-turned on it. So the government are actively looking at ways to not reverse the policy altogether, apparently, but raise the qualifying level. If I were them, I would make sure I raise it by a massive amount. Like removing a sticking plaster, get it done quickly, sort it out. There's no point in doing a little fine tune and then next year, oh, it wasn't quite enough, let's do a bit more. Then it becomes symptomatic of a government just not listening. We're told that there might be an announcement as soon as next month. Also seems that opposition to the PIP changes for disabled people is growing at last. Backbench MPs are reportedly not against reforms to the welfare system, but not at all impressed with monkeying about with a benefit that is not an out of work benefit being cut to help people into work. It's like, that makes no sense. You're trying to help people into work by cutting a benefit for people who are in work already. And MPs know that. They're not that stupid. This was also a deeply unpopular policy in some key Labour areas. This one could be trickier, I suppose, because more money to reverse it. The winter fuel allowance policy didn't really save very much. In fact, just a little tangent. So there's quite a bit of amusement yesterday. Lawrence Fox he's trying to crowdfund legal fees again because he's going to be in court. And his crowdfunder apparently, as of yesterday, had only raised a £5. All very embarrassing for a multimillionaire. Although that is still more than Labour may have saved with their winter fuel policy. So that is an easy one to deal with. It might be that it's more that these policies these policies, PIP and winter fuel allowance, they may be the biggest source of Labour's collapse in the polling, right? We don't know. It might be that that's more so the case than the recent socially regressive policies, which are the cause of Labour's collapse. We just have no idea from the polling we have available. But what we do know is that those recent efforts to appeal to the worst side of reform's appeal to voters has not helped them. In fact, not only have Labour voters turned away from the party and are looking more favourably towards Reform UK, Reform UK voters have a much lower opinion of Starmer and Labour as well. So Labour are trying to appeal to these voters, and these voters are actually becoming more disenchanted with Labour. You know, for the past few years, I have been talking about how the Conservatives have been pushing performative policies designed to mimic Reform UK, only to see even more voters lost to Reform UK. And still they doubled down on it. They're still doing it now under Badenoch. Labour have tried to follow the same method and get different results. But guess what? They've got the same results. There is something fundamentally broken in the Downing Street operation. They haven't just made one or two errors. They've made a lot of errors. And those errors were not just concentrated into their first few months where, you know, they were caught on the hop. They're carrying on right now. Think about the various policies Labour have really tried to push over the past month while these poll ratings were collapsing. None of them will produce any noticeable impact for the public, at least not a positive one. The trans position is low saliency and it just risks a fight with the European Court of Human Rights, exactly what Farage wants. The PIP cuts are not going to produce any benefit to the wider population. Their economic immigration policies are also not going to contribute to a significant drop in the figures beyond what was already sort of teed up. And their asylum policies are still going to mean that boats will still be crossing and there will be some hotel accommodations still in use come the next general election. So unlike their policies on energy, housing, workers' rights, water industry, NHS and so on, which can produce a noticeable impact on voters' lives that they will recognise before the next election, the socially regressive stuff doesn't, which means that they're pushing it in order to get a boost in the polls, because that's its only use. It's not actually going to produce any change that voters will notice, so it can only be a part of their communication strategy. But they've had a collapse in the polls. Labour are now most definitely in second place. There's no doubt about that. Starmer is also deeply unpopular, the most unpopular he's ever been. Labour cannot afford for this to take hold. You can't go into the next election with figures like this. And they cannot think of, oh, yeah, we'll inch these figures back up over the course of 4 more years. No, they have to treat them seriously now before they take hold. It doesn't matter if Labour's recent disappointing rhetoric on social issues has contributed to the poor polling or not. Like I say, there's no publicly available polling that lets us know, but we can say for certain it has not boosted them. It hasn't even arrested the decline from the policies we do know are unpopular. They've attempted to win back voters from Reform by trying to mimic a tamer version of them and have ended up pissing off more of their own voters as well as pissing off even more Reform voters. The experiment has provably failed and they need to cancel it with all urgency. The advisors who have orchestrated this are very, very obviously not data-driven. That is really supremely obvious and they need to be shown the door. There is some positive news in this. First of all, they recognise that this polling is bad. Because although the flurry of ill-advised social positions over the last month has not improved things and may actually have made it worse, they were a response to bad polling. They weren't planning on doing this. They did it because the polling was bad. So Labour at least are no longer telling themselves that, oh yeah, it's fine to take a bit of a hit in the polls early in the parliamentary cycle because we'll get it back later, like they were a few months ago. They've stopped telling themselves that. So at least they recognise that bad polling is bad. Second of all, Starmer hasn't done anything personally to shit the bed. If people start to believe the Labour government are making their lives better, his ratings will improve at the same time as the parties. But Downing Street needs to focus on that. There are easy ways to do it. Like instead of trying to woo GB News viewers on asylum this week, Starmer should have been getting journalists round to Downing Street to talk about the better than expected growth figures and blocking Thames Water executive bonuses. Labour should not only not be trying to make a song and dance about immigration policies, they should shut up about them completely. Because they're not going to do what Reform UK say they will do. Just keep highlighting the falling numbers once a year. Talk about it once a year when the new figures come out. Obviously, if someone asks you a question, you've got to answer it. But in terms of like holding a press conference on immigration, you do it once a year when the figures are out and you've got something to say, and leave it at that. Spend the day-to-day talking about things which don't win Farage's approval. Improving the NHS, better workers' rights, cheaper, greener energy, laying down the law for water companies, better relations with the EU, that'll needle him. Trying to be a softer Brexit party than the Tories didn't help Labour under Corbyn. Trying to be a softer Reform UK didn't help the Tories under Sunak or Badenoch. And trying to do so for Labour under Starmer is provably failing as well. People want a difference. We know why Reform UK are popular. It's not actually because of their policies or positions. Most people don't even know what they are. It's because of their claim that the Tories and Labour are failing and will continue to fail. People want a different party. They want change. They voted for change. Labour should keep talking about the change they are bringing, which will be noticed. Nobody's going to notice any improvement in their lives connected with the policies Labour are actually wasting their megaphones on. Nobody. So shut up about them. Start talking about the high impact positive policies. Sack the idiots responsible for this polling disaster before it becomes more long term. And for the love of God, stop saying things. What's happening? I don't know how they're carrying out these discussions in Downing Street, right? I'll tell you what should be happening. They should be sat around with polling data and an expert analyst telling them this is what these are our key voters. This is what they were doing a few years ago. These are the key voters we need to reach to. These are the issues working. I know that's not working. And how do I know that that's not what they're doing right now? Because the polling is collapsing. So stop saying things based on brain farts of advisors trapped in groupthink and then using focus groups or whatever to find out what went wrong afterwards. Consult the public before you announce things. Make sure if you're going to say something that's intended to have an impact in the polls, make sure you've tested it out first before you put it into action. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.